We know that energy is the lead, that people don't follow titles because they want to, it's because they have to. And when you talk about workforce energy management and the push-pull mentality, one energizes, one drains the energy. So when you can tap into that natural energy of people wanting to follow, naturally following someone, that's the sweet spot of leadership. Now, the question is, how do you do that? It's understanding the differences between forced leadership, follow me because I say so, because my title says so, and that natural momentum, that natural energy where you just want to follow them, you want to be on their team. We've all know that person, or maybe even ourselves, where people go into certain teams because they love the energy of it. They might not even like the work that they do, or the circumstances might even be more chaotic, but they love working for that person. I've been lucky enough to have some really good bosses, and I didn't follow them because they were my boss or the president of the company, because they treated people fairly, because they had the genuine conversations. They had the tough talks and accountability conversations that needed to happen, right? I want to follow that type of energy versus maybe the drama dweller or the catastrophizer where everything's going wrong and no one's doing their job, right? That's negative energy. No one wants to follow that, and all it does is attract more victims. Knowing that, we know that energy is contagious, for better or for worse. And how you can go about being the leader that people naturally want to follow is managing that energy. So let's go through 5 steps that you can start practicing to be that leader. All these steps are around you and how you manage your energy. Have you ever went into a room full of people and the energy is just yuck? Like nothing good is going to happen in this room. And then you go into another room and you're like, wow, like same circumstances, same topic. We have to work through this. And it's completely different because of how the leader is having the conversations and the discussion. So do you see, it's not so much about the circumstances, it's about the energy that you provide for it. So that means it starts with you and how you're feeding that energy. So let's go through the first steps. The first one is setting the tone daily. Do you walk in and just catastrophize and dump on people? Or do you talk about the things that went well in the week, the things that you're producing, the progress parts, the hurdles we've overcome? And that's not in a toxic positivity way. As you've seen on other videos, I am very much against toxic positivity because that's where people can get stuck in survival mode when you start painting over the things that need to be addressed. I'm talking about genuine progress conversation. So it means that we're just focusing a little bit more on the things that we are working towards that are in our control than catastrophizing the things that are out of our control. So are you setting that tone for the day? And in my leadership mastermind, we work on that language, that lingo to use to start to reframe the mentality of not just how you show up, but the language your team starts using as well. The second thing you want to do to show up as that leader that people want to naturally follow is operate from vision, not tasks. So sometimes we want to talk about tasks and you start listing them out and you start listing up all the checkpoints to the end of the goal. That's micromanaging. That's negative energy, and that's feeding an energy eventually people won't want to follow, even though it's easy. Even though it seems like you're making it easier for them, you're not coaching them and you're actually draining the energy. When you lead from a coach, from an empowerment standpoint, you lead from vision, meaning this is what we want to get to. Look at all the possibilities we can do to get there. Do you see the energy shift? People can create, innovate, they have autonomy, a whole different vibe. So number 2 is operate from vision, not tasks. There's going to be a lot of regrooming in your behavior going from that micromanagement to coach. There's going to be several unlearning type of behaviors that you have in that micromanaging because you are responsible for the team. You're responsible for the end outcome. But slowly, as you begin to reroute your behavior, reroute that language, you'll move away from that task or that micromanaging into more of a coach leading to that vision. Now, the third one is when you sit down with someone and have your one-on-one meetings, are you just talking about updates, progress, things like that, or do you slip in a value add question here and there? It doesn't mean you need to dump 10 value add questions into one meeting. I think one would do. One per meeting. A value add is going to provide enough work for the team to continue this journey. Let's go through 2 of my favorite. The first one is in our expedition category of workforce energy management. This is how we're collaborating and communicating with each other. So a great question to ask during your one-on-one or even in your department meeting, away from task and progress updates into more of this energy zone, is how can we improve the way that we share information and feedback within our team? Do you see already where some of the dysfunction might come out that we can talk about and have a discussion, that maybe the elephant in the room we finally get to addressing? This isn't just about tasks. This is about cleaning up effective pass-offs between departments. It's about workflow cleanup. All those energy drainers that aren't addressed, that leaders just keep going forward with tasks, talking about updates, and real dysfunction and drainers are never addressed. So adding this value add question into your next department meeting or one-on-one is going to kind of shift that energy into progress and this natural energy flow. Another great question to ask is out of our navigate category, and this is how we're guiding the direction of the team. And the value add question is, what's one action we can take this week to ensure that we're all aligned with the department's objectives? And this is a great one-on-one question because this is where things are going to come out that people won't say in a group. And what it's going to do is address some of your system or your process or your people issues. And whatever information comes from this, you can see, is this trending? I need to address it. Or is this just a personal preference type of situation and I need to coach them through it? In either way, if you take action on this, people see progress. They see that you are leading them, that you're supporting them away from these energy drainers into energizers. So you set the tone daily. You're operating from vision, not tasks. And you're utilizing value add type of conversations and discussions instead of just tasks and progress updates. Now, the fourth one is understanding the different work styles in your team, because sometimes you want to push people forward at a fast pace and we got slow paced work styles. Or you need to take a moment and really dig into gaps, data, details, and you got fast paced people within your team. So using DISC work style assessments will help you understand who's on your team, because the conversations are going to be different. For D, our dominance, and I, our influence, they're fast paced. They want to move. So you might have to break it up into smaller increments, or you might have to slow them down from just jumping in. And our S, our supportives, and C's compliance, they are the slow and methodic pace type of people. They want to dig into the details. They're going to address the gaps that others might not see. So they want to know, what are the next steps? What are the checkpoints? Let's have the conversation on what do the details look like of this project. Understanding the work styles within your team will help you meet them where they're at. Do you feel that energy? Have you had a boss that just doesn't understand you? And then you had a boss that does, and you're like, wow, what a difference that conversation made. I can move forward. I don't have all this lingering resentment, stress, drain on me throughout the day after day. The number one reason people leave their job is their boss. So when you can actually meet people where they're at, their natural work styles, you can feed their natural energy. And with that comes motivation and productivity. It's not forced. It naturally follows. So number 4 is understanding the DISC work styles so that you can meet them where they're at. And there's no push in that. Now, the 5th one is really working and practicing, moving away from this directing, this micromanaging, into a coach, into activating ideas, creativity, and autonomy. And what I'm talking about there is, instead of pushing, instead of telling, are you creating an environment where they create the next thing, where they create the next idea, where they're pushing for this next goal because they're all in? That's engagement. That's where people lean in. That's where your team is scheduling the meetings and collaborating instead of you always having to facilitate the conversation. That's the sweet spot of where you want to get, where energy is the lead, because energy is now leading the conversation. Energy is now leading the collaboration, the communication between the meeting. And let me tell you, the workload that comes off of leaders when you get to this sweet spot of doing these 5 things is huge, because now the leaders can focus on strategy. Now they can have time to address the actual problems and dysfunctions within your operations instead of always micromanaging situations, always creating the next goal. That's only one person. What if the whole team was doing that? The amount of ideas, there might be something gold in there, but you'll never know until you step into that type of energy. So can you set the tone daily? I think you're up for it. Operating from vision and not tasks? Let's work on that in the mastermind. Utilize value-add questions. You already have 2. Try them out. Understanding DISC work styles. Let's connect and see what that looks like within your organization. And moving from this directing to more of an activating type of style. This is the energy that people want to follow. Now I have one last question before you go. What would your organization look like? What would your team look like? What would your days feel like if you've reclaimed the energy.